It's 5:45 p.m., which means it's time for BCTV's weekly media roundup, 5:45 Live. I'm Roland Boyden.
And I'm Kia Bailey. Coming up, Vermont Yankee security is still up and running, emergency infrastructure repair budgets, and an overview of last week's 8-hour town meeting. All that and more, and we'll do it in 15 minutes, so stick with us.
Howdy ho, BCTV. It's 5:45 Live's Roland Boyden here for a special lunchtime update from Brattleboro Representative Town Meeting 2015. I'm up here on the second level of the... Welcome back to this March 27th, 2015 edition of 5:45 Live. A look at some of our lunch break coverage from Brattleboro Representative Town Meeting. Now for more into the headlines we go.
For 8 hours last Saturday, Representative Town Meeting members met in the BAM's multipurpose room with Select Board and School Board members to review 27 binding articles. Among the articles discussed were town and school budgets, infrastructure repair, the police fire projects, feasibility studies for the skate park, and the local options tax. The $15.4 million school budget passed almost unanimously, resulting in a 2.6-cent tax increase for the next fiscal year. As for the town budget, there will be no tax increase as the result of an approved $15.5 million budget. Rather, $96,265 will be taken from the town's unassigned fund balance to ensure that the taxes do not change in the next fiscal year. Town meeting members also approved $485,000 to spend on emergency infrastructure repairs around town, including the Elliott Street Bridge and the Green Street retaining wall. More on that later. The controversial police fire projects were discussed at the meeting as well, and while no decisions were made on Saturday, the project will go forward. Now it's only a question of how and when. The Brattleboro Skate Park seems to finally be becoming a reality. The town meeting members approved allocating $20 grand from the unassigned fund balance for a feasibility study to be conducted in the upper part of Living Memorial Park, the current predicted location for the skate park. The local option tax, which had already been defeated at least twice in the past, was once again rejected at town meeting 78-44. While many things were discussed and decided last weekend, follow-up special representative town meetings are bound to occur in the future.
I imagine there could be worse ideas for the benefit of the town than raising the sales tax. And
I believe that it would be in the best interests of the town to defeat this. It's already been defeated once in a townwide vote. It's been defeated in representative town meeting before, and I think we would all be wiser to continue to turn it down.
I guess my first response is how many times we're going to kick this can around the block.
Is a person who is otherwise inclined to shop in Brattleboro really going to say, well, 75 cents is too much, I'm going to buy it online and pay $6 shipping?
We're not overspending. We spent the morning looking at all the capital expenses we have coming at us and the ones that are with us right now. We have a revenue problem.
All those who are in favor of the motion for a 1% local option sales tax, please rise and remain standing until your vote has been counted. Listen to the results of your vote. 44 voting yes and 78 voting no, and you have defeated Article 22.
Now, speaking of that skate park allocation, 545 Live senior news correspondent Adam Hinkley is standing by at Memorial Park to bring us more on that story. Adam, break it down for us. What's the deal here?
Here I am at Memorial Park talking about the new budget that was recently approved by the town meeting representatives. On last Saturday, they approved a $15.3 million municipal budget, a $15.4 million school budget, $632,000 for new vehicles, $485,000 for just to keep the tax rate stable, and perhaps most important to some, especially young adults, is $20,000 for a new skate park that will be built right here at Memorial Park. We'll see how that turns out in the future. Back to the desk.
All right, Adam, thanks for checking in with us. We'll be sure to check back in with you from our next location in a moment. But first, into our next story we go, which ties back into town meeting as the Brattleboro Select Board approved several emergency funding projects around town, including the 200-year-old retaining wall on Green Street, which is close to collapsing. Now, for over 20 years, the wall has been monitored, and the shifting of the wall continues to be a threat. Recently, the Select Board approved infrastructure spending, which may involve replacing the deteriorating wall with Ready Rock, a material that was used to repair the Washington Street retaining wall 2 years ago. Other options included building a new stone wall, which would last for a very long time, but would also be expensive, or simply abandoning the street altogether, which some say would not be good for the town as a whole and would involve many other changes around as well. The Select Board also approved plans to apply for grants to assist in paying for the project, which is estimated to cost $585,000.
Here I am at the Green Street extension, where the Brattleboro Development Review Board has approved that the Green Street extension be allowed to not be in compliance with state guidelines. The board stated that the contractors cannot fix the bridge by the required date, probably having something to do with their schedule in the I-91 bridge project. So they have been given the extension that will expire on December 15th, and they expect the bridge to be finished by spring of this year. Back to the desk.
See more on the Green Street retaining wall approval at the board's special select board meeting, which was hosted the Monday after town meeting, as mandated by new charter provisions, which also saw the swearing in of new select board members, all incumbents who ran unopposed this March. You can see all that. It's at the March 23rd, 2015 Brattleboro Select Board meeting, where they also got a special presentation on the I-91 bridge.
And speaking of the I-91 bridge project, it was originally predicted to be completed after the 2015-2016 winter season, but it's now predicted to last much longer. Susan Minter, the Secretary of Transportation, informed town officials on Monday that 4-lane traffic would not return until November of 2016, and the project would not be complete until the spring of 2017. The two construction companies involved, FIGG and PLC, submitted a new work schedule and seemed to be back on track with added resources and doubled shifts for the workers. In order to compensate for the unavoidable traffic buildups that occur as a result of the construction, Exit 3 will be closed on March 29th and again on April 5th. Additional detour signs through town will also be put up in an effort to ease the effects of heightened traffic.
All right, moving on now. On Monday morning, a New York woman crashed her car on the side of I-91 as a result of being distracted by her Kindle. She was reportedly listening to an audiobook when the Kindle shifted, and when she took her eyes off the road to adjust the device, she drifted onto the shoulder of the road, and her attempt to correct the mistake caused her vehicle to cross both lanes of traffic head-on off the side of the road, where she hit a bank and flipped the car onto its side. Luckily, she was wearing her seatbelt and was not injured, though her car did have to be towed from the scene. All right, we're going to move on and talk Vermont Yankee in a moment, but first, south to Guilford we go, where they've had their own bridge woes with the Green River Bridge, a project that's finally slated to commence, with the board announcing to the public some of the details around how they're going to move this project forward at their regularly scheduled meeting this past Monday, something we've got a little footage of right now.
We know the estimated cost is $550,000, which does include the $315,000. So that's not in addition to it. That's inclusive of that. There are funding sources other than taxes, and that's what funding other than taxes means, sources.
All right, and now, as promised, on to Vermont Yankee we go, and for that, back into the headlines.
After two recent alleged trespassing incidents on Vermont Yankee's property, the plant's administration continues to remind the public that there are armed on-site security guards that provide 24/7 security. After the plant's closing in late December, cuts in staffing had to be made, and there's an unmanned checkpoint near the front entrance. But energy safety measures remain in place in accordance with the NRC's policies. VY commented that while there may be some unmanned areas, there are no areas which are unmonitored, and each case will be dealt with appropriately.
And speaking of Vermont Yankee, last night the 19-member citizen committee known as NDCAP, or the Vermont Nuclear Decommissioning Citizen Advisory Panel, met once again, this time at the high school here in Brattleboro, to again discuss the issues the state faces when it comes to overseeing the decommissioning process at Vermont Yankee, the costs of which many fear could fall to the Vermont taxpayers somewhere down the road, with the NRC approving the up to 60-year spent fuel storage process known as Safe Store, something some members of the panel say means the state has to bank on Entergy's financial viability as a company for more than half a century to come.
I just really want to start off by talking about safety. One of the things that's paramount in our industry, but in particular at Vermont Yankee, as we transition from an operating plant to a decommissioning plant, is safety. And safety is more than just worrying about our people, but certainly that's one of the most important things.
You can see that full 3-hour Vermont NDCAP meeting and all the previous NDCAP meetings as well. It has a series landing page all at brattleboro.tv.org where you can watch the whole thing, get it in context, and catch it all this week right here on BCTV Comcast Channel 8 in the coming 2 weeks as well, where it'll get some playouts. All right, just a few things to wrap up here as we move on. 65 years ago, the FBI created their Top 10 Most Wanted Fugitives program with the help of a reporter looking to write about the toughest guys sought by the FBI. The feature article generated a lot of hype over half a century ago, and since then, the FBI has established the help of the public to locate their most wanted criminals. For 65 years now, there's been a successful bridge between law enforcement, citizens, and the media that has changed and evolved to become a powerful and useful resource for the FBI. And speaking of law enforcement and federal agencies, hardworking BCTV volunteer and 545 Live News correspondent James Bansleben has got us the latest info on a major drug bust of a resident of the Bronx who's been caught trafficking huge amounts of heroin up to Vermont, all through the Green Mountain State. This is a press release out of Burlington that reads, Acting Special Agent in Charge Michael J. Ferguson of the DEA in New England, following the action of the United States Attorney for the District of Vermont, stated that 37-year-old Joe Young of the Bronx was sentenced on March 6 by the Chief United States District Court Judge Christina Reese to 48 months in prison for conspiracy to distribute both heroin and cocaine based in Vermont. So as the DEA continues to struggle keeping drugs coming up from New York into Vermont, made one small step there. Again, thanks to James for getting us that story. Time to move on with just a few things left here on our 545 Live Friday edition, including a look at our calendar. Now, this is all sponsored by the Brattleboro Savings and Loan, as their generous contributions to BCTV each year give us a chance to look at the weekend's upcoming events as part of our BCTV video calendar weekly feature. For that, Key, I'll turn it back over to you for our first event.
Performances of Little Women continue this weekend with a show tonight at 7, tomorrow at 2 and 7, and again on Sunday at 2 p.m. Little Women, based on the novel by Louisa May Alcott, is a coming-of-age play set in the Civil War era that focuses mainly on the 4 March sisters as they grow up. Tickets are $13 for adults, $12 for seniors, and $10 for students, and can be purchased online at NEYT.org or at the NEYT box office.
And it might be worth noting, Kia, that you, in fact, star in this performance. If people are interested, again, it's at NEYT this weekend. Find out more at NEYT.org. All right, time to check in with our weather, courtesy of the high school's morning news advisory broadcast crew that makes up BUHS TV. What's this weekend's weather look like, guys?
Saturday, however, it's actually going to get wet. There's going to be some rain, most likely, about 70% chance. I think that's pretty likely overall. High of 42, low of 35. Still kind of warm. Sunday, however, high of 39, low of 20. Still a kind of a chance of rain, but less likely. There might be some snow mixed in. Doesn't really look to be a great weekend overall, but I'm sure that you'll find a way to manage. That's all I have for you today. Let's go back to the desk.
That does it for another edition of 545 Live. We'll see you right here next week at 5:45 p.m. on BCTV Comcast Channel 8. In the meantime, thanks for watching.
It's time for a shameless BCTV promotion about Adam. Oh, that's dumb. That is what we're talking about.
The controversial police. The Brattleboro Skate Park seems to be finally becoming a reality. I wrote this. I should know this.
You can do it on your camera, yeah.
The I-91 bridge project, which was originally predicted to be completed after the 2015-2002.
Actually, you know what? Before you start that, can we